All right. Hope everyone's doing well. I know it's a busy time of the year, so a lot of activities going on. I was just in a meeting with a lot of the instructors a few minutes ago. I know digitally at the parent teacher couple weeks too, so lots of activities going on. So the process doing a screen share, so it should end in a second. Yep, there we go. So we're into the third module, so kind of wanted to do a more or less a touch base. I know we just met week before last as you guys were getting ready to start your overview and the tier one lesson plans. And so this week coming up, we are in week 11. It's hard to believe already. The semester's really flying by. We were just having that discussion on the meeting a while ago. It's going to be Thanksgiving before we know it and Christmas. So where's the semester went, right? So we're actually in week 11 right now, and coming up this week, you technically don't have anything to do, so you get a little break there, a little breathing room. Other than it lists some of the readings and reviewing a couple of the videos that are posted in the course shell, and then we roll over to week 12, um, where we're going to have the tier 2, 3 intervention lesson plan, and then also where you do another teaching reflection for the groups that you're in, depending on what grade level you were signed up in. And so that's somebody more or less touch base on the PLC group or the groups that you were signed up with, whether it was elementary, junior high age, or secondary high school. So that'll be coming up due the week of the 10th. So really kind of want to just see how everyone feels where you're at with your case study students right now. I believe I have most all of the tier one lesson plan and the overviews scored and back. I may still have a couple hanging out there. I've been trying to go through them, but I feel like I've got most of them back. So you guys did, for the most part, did a good job on those. Everyone's, it looks really good, and you're on the right track. So basically, we're just going to go up and extend it a little bit more now and do a lesson plan where we're focusing on the tier interventions. And so, as you know, the tier ones is more the overall whole group. And then when we get into the tier 2 and 3, it's more of the small group getting into that individualized plan for them. So we'll look at that a little bit here in just a second. And then, like I said, also your teaching reflection post and the discussion board will be coming up due. And that will wrap us up through week 12. And then we'll start the last little stretch of the class. Just so you kind of know, coming up, part 4 of the case study, which will be in that last stretch, where you'll actually do a recording of yourself teaching that lesson that you developed. Okay, and you'll post that and upload it into your discussion board group to where your peers can review it, provide some feedback, offer some suggestions, and input for you to consider. It's a good way, it's a good learning experience because you may be stuck and struggling on some things. Your peers in your group maybe experience that, and they can offer some good feedback and suggestions for you to help you out. So, is there any questions about really where we're at up to this point after you submitted the overview paper where you kind of did your basic observation, you had written up your kind of your case study overview, and then on the tier one lesson plans. Anybody really have any questions or concerns over anything that you submitted or anything that was returned? No? Nothing? Okay, just want to make sure. So I'm gonna scroll down here just a tad bit where we get into a little bit of the description on part 3, which we're going to start working on now. As I mentioned, it's devising or developing the lesson plan for the tier 2 and 3. So basically, your case study students that you have, you're just going to essentially you're going to group those 2 students together and target similar IEP goals. Basically, is what you're going to do. I know we had 2 students you were working with, and it was kind of more of a broad overview. So now we're going to get a little bit more specific and develop some similar IEP goals. Also include evidence-based intervention to help successfully meet the goals that you've written in for the IEP or that you would write in based on everything that you've observed and the data you've collected. And so essentially, you're going to design one lesson at a tier 2, 3 level. using those evidence-based interventions. And so there is, and I can flip over if we need to show you. It's essentially where a lot of the case study student documents were located, templates where you were able to locate the pre-made lesson plan depending on what grade level you were in. You basically selected that lesson plan and made some adjustments, modifications to it. There is a lesson plan template form, and it's labeled Tier 2, 3 lesson plan template. That's the document you're going to use for part 3. Okay. And so it has a lot of the prompts. If you guys have been with me in 805, in the assessment class, you were already developing some of these lesson plans. So you would essentially, we would go through and learn how to administer and you have some of the various assessments. And then we were having you guys do a lesson plan over the data that you collected. So this lesson plan template that's in the course shell, it's almost identical to the same template form that we used if you have me in 805. Okay. So literally you're just focusing on the tier 2, 3 um, interventions for that. And then you'll turn around and write like an overview paper summarizing everything you did kind of in a scholarly format, just like you did on the first section. So it's basically going in and providing some detailed explanations on the interventions, on the goals, and just providing a written explanation on that. And then make sure if you used any type of reference that you cite that at the end of that written paper. That written paper talks about the scholarly written paper describing your interventions. Most of those you should be able to do in a page to a page and a half. You're just going in for the interventions you've input and some additional observation information and basically writing it up and describing it in detail on that. Any question on that? Kind of what we're going to be looking at for that lesson plan. Does everyone know exactly the template that I'm referencing, or you want me to flip over and show you?
I think I know what it is, but could you show us?
Sure. Yeah, give me just a minute. Yeah, absolutely. Give me just a minute to stop my screen share, Tom. And let me get over to quickly. Bear with me just a second. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go over and I'll do my screen share. Oh, hang on, he didn't hold it for me. Just a sec. Okay. Should pop up there for you in just a minute. And you should see my screen now. Is everyone good? Can you see it? Okay.
Yeah,
So I'll make
you're good.
basically, Tom, this says case study students assignment, and it'll say instructions and relevant materials. And it'll just, at the first part, again, these are where you found the templates the last time. Gives a little description on the different parts of where you'll see the very first document that you can click on. It says Appendix E, SPED 822, Tier 3, or Tier 2, 3 lesson plan template. Very first document. And I'm going to scroll down and remind you and show you or I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago, depending on what group you were signed up. If you signed up for middle school level, or if you were high school level or elementary, this is where the lesson plan document was found. One of them was on a science lesson. If you remember, you use those to kind of as your basis. So it's in the same folder, but the document I'm referencing now is in the it's the very first document listed. So I'm gonna go ahead and click it. It'll switch over. So this is what it looks like. Tom, can you see my screen? Everyone still?
Yep,
Okay.
I remember using that
Yeah.
with you in the 805 or
So,
whatever the class was.
yeah. So we used it if you were with me in 805, or if you had someone else. I teach most of those 805s, but there's been some other instructors depending on when you took it. This was a template form that we provided, and so it has some of the sections on there, and you literally go and put in your information. Over to the right is an arrow to download it. So you can download this onto your desktop and it's in Word format. And so you literally can go in and click on each one of these sections and start typing your information in, and then hit save as Tom Klein, tier 2, 3 lesson plan, and hit save as and save it, and then just upload it into Blackboard to submit. So it allows you to edit this and put your information in. So it'll have a section on knowledge of the learning environment. It's going to ask you your content area, name of activity, grade level, time needed for the lesson, an IEP goal that you develop based on your 2 students that you're working with. Cite the standard that it references. Here it says write 1 sentence objective using the ABCD format, the audience, behavior, conditions, and the degree to which they're going to perform. A little bit about the background knowledge. You'll see it gives you a prompt here. It says include what the teacher and student should know prior to the lesson. So coming in based on their ability level and knowledge. Just you will describe a little bit about you as a teacher, what that student you anticipate that they know coming in before you present the lesson. So you give a brief description there. Any key vocabulary that you feel like will be important for the students to know that's going to be embedded with the lesson you present. So you'll list the key vocabulary terms there. Any resources, materials, or technology that you would include. Okay, it could be the individual students, they need Chromebook, or if they need specific materials, they'll just list it there. If it's technology, explain what technology is needed in the lesson. Okay. Here's another section that you'll drop down to on this lesson plan template. That's the lesson structure and procedures. And so this is where you talk a little bit about the evidence-based procedures or instructional strategies. And so this gives you a prompt here. Describe the approach you will take in implementing the plan. How are students going to be engaged and motivated to learn? So it's giving you some things to consider. You want to make sure it's designed to create interest in the student, initiate the experience, and also familiarize children with content-specific language. So here you're going to just kind of put information that you would use within your opening to introduce a lesson to get the students engaged and interested. The next section you'll drop down, you'll describe the learning activities or procedures step by step of what the teacher will do and what the students will do. Maybe some examples of some questioning techniques. Drop down, you'll next talk a little bit about Samuel. You'll talk a little bit about guided practice. Include any activities that you might implement for the lesson that provides guided practice. Then basically a section for closure. Kind of describe how you will go in and close, wrap up the lesson and bring closure. Maybe restating the objectives and just kind of assess how their learning went. And then follow up. Describe a quick activity for review or for building on the lesson that will deepen student understanding. So something that you could go in maybe the following day, do a quick follow-up on just to make sure that students were able to comprehend and remember the skills that you covered in the lesson. Now we're going to talk just briefly about assessment, informal. Okay. Maybe give a description of an informal assessment you could use. And again, for those of you that have me in 805, we talked about informal assessments. We talked about formal. Informal is something that's very quick. It's a very quick assessment you can administer. Often always say it can be done in 2 minutes or less. Very easy. It could be something as simple as an exit ticket, leaving the room after you went over the lesson. You say, hey, before everyone leaves the room, go to the next class, you take out a scrap piece of paper and write down 3 things that you remember that we just covered in this lesson. That could be their exit ticket. And it just gives you an idea by looking at the feedback that they totally understood what you just taught. Formal assessment, this would be identifying, describing the type of assessment that occurred maybe either before or pre-assessment. during or after. So maybe did you give a little formal pre-assessment just to kind of see where they're at? And then another formal at the end to see what all they remembered. Okay, be something very simple. Classroom management. Describe any evidence-based strategies that you would implement to meet the student behavior needs to help keep them on task and actively engaged. Okay. Could be something that's being up in proximity the whole time, going around the room. I mean, any type of evidence-based strategy you plan to implement. Instructional strategies. Here you might asking you to provide maybe a citation or reference. Describe the teacher's approach to achieving the learning objectives and meeting the students' needs. Okay, so next thing is if you're going to have to do any differentiation or accommodations, modifications, or enrichment. So if you feel like you may have to go back and reteach, you can explain here ways that you would provide some accommodations or how you would differentiate the lesson, or if you have to modify. Okay, so you'll provide a brief explanation there under reteach. And then in enrichment, maybe explain enrichment activities to enhance their learning objectives. Any type of accommodation or modification based on your students' needs. And if you have a culturally or linguistically diverse learners, you would explain any accommodation there. You may not have any, and that's fine. If not, simply just put NA, not applicable. And any other additional information under this section, identify any area or lesson component that was not covered by your lesson plan format that you would feel is vital or important and should be included. Okay, if you feel like there's anything not covered in the template that you think should be covered, you can just add it in as additional information. It's not required, but feel free to do it. Okay. And then again, after you complete that lesson plan template, you'll go in and just provide a written narrative, providing an explanation, overview of everything you did in the lesson plan. Okay, and that's going to literally be part 3. Remember, as you're developing this lesson plan, guys, it's for tier 2 and 3, so it's more small group, individual focused versus the whole group. Okay. This plan look familiar to a lot of you as far as just a basic template. Like I said, we used one very similar to this in 805 for those of you that have me in there. Actually, the one we're using now in 805 is a little bit more in depth, but we've decided to use this specific plan for 822 because it's a little bit more broad. So.
I got a quick question. I'm sorry I came in late. It was a very long day. So
Yeah.
this lesson, are we supposed to take, like, since I'm in elementary, I have 2 students now. So are we supposed to take this and modify that other lesson that we had like critiqued? Well, not really critiqued, but kind of what that.
You went in and you took that model or the one that you initially started with and went in and came up with some tier 1s. So now you're going to take it another step further and get more specific instead of tier 1 for the whole group, more specific for the 2 students now that you're working on because it's tier 2 and 3. Okay, it's small group / individual.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on that? Remember, guys, it's a couple weeks here. Okay, you won't have anything due this Sunday at all. So you've got a little breathing room here. It's not like it's a quick turnaround deal. So you'll have that coming up due on November the 11th. I'm sorry, November the 10th. Also, that same Sunday, remember, is the group teaching reflection. It'll be the 4th one. So you've already done 3 of them, and it's going in there and just providing another update, okay, from 4. Now, The one later on after that, once we're on part 4, that teaching reflection is going to be a little bit different, that last one, because you're literally going to provide that video of you presenting that lesson for your group to review. But that's on down. I just kind of wanted to mention that. That's a few weeks ahead of us, but I just kind of want you to have that in the back of your mind.
So
Okay.
this lesson, tier 2, 3 lesson plan, when we finally teach it, we also need to video record ourselves teaching it.
You'll video record it. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That's correct. So everything we're doing is just kind of building on top of each other down to the last part of this, of the case study. And that's literally, you're going to be doing the video, recording of the teaching of it.
Okay, sorry. I just want to clarify with the lesson plan that we're doing. Are we using the subject of the tier 1 to guide this lesson plan that's based for our 2-3? Tier
Correct.
2-3. Okay, so it needs to be like for I'm elementary, so it needs to be the science based on the same topics, but
Where you started
narrow it
originally,
down.
tier
Okay.
1, you're building right on top of that. So if you were, Tom might have been secondary, so he's using that as his basis and building off of that. And Samuel might have been middle school one. So he's going to do that and just continue to build off it.
Okay, sorry. I
Yeah.
just wanted to
No,
make
no,
sure I really
no.
understood.
That's you're right on track.
Okay, so pretty much like if the kiddo had got the tier 1 lesson and they still were struggling and they come, to the resource room and we can hone in on it is pretty much what we're doing. Okay,
You're right
perfect.
on the right track. Okay. Any other questions before we go?
So I need a timeline of things. It's been a crazy week. We create this lesson. When do we need to plan on teaching this lesson and recording it so I can like throw it in my lesson plans on a day that might be good, or I mean, I never know what the day is going to be.
Sure.
So-
So let me go back to this timeline, get off the screen share and get back. You'll bear with me then. Go back and pull it up where she's. Wrong button. Let's see if I can make it work. Okay, it's in the process of flipping over your screen. I'm gonna where it shows the time. Okay, so I'm doing a screen share of the syllabus again. And if you'll see, we are actually, Sarah, did you ask me the question? I'm sorry. Is it? Yeah, okay, thumbs up. So if you guys will see, we're up here in week 11. So we are focusing week 11 and week 12, which will take us through November the 10th, to where you're going to have this lesson, this part 2-3 plan to submit and your teaching reflection 4. Then we will start working on you presenting your lesson during a time. We'll have another 2-week gap there. So you will see on Sunday, the 24th is when that video posting will be. Okay, so that kind of gives you a better idea now. So literally, we are back up here on, man, I'm losing my, we're on October the 28th through November the 3rd. So you have all the way down, Sierra, until November the 24th when that's due. Okay, so really, once you do that lesson plan for the tier 2 and 3, anytime after that you want to start planning to present that, you can after you submitted it. Okay, you can build it into your schedule any way you want to do that in there. Just knowing you'll have up until Sunday the 24th. Okay, does that kind of give you an idea?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, clarifications? Clear as mud? Okay, so moving forward, just remember, we have a little gap here, you get a little bit of a break, and then that'll be due on Sunday the 10th, that lesson plan. And have a little gap in there before, give you some time to set up and that recording, then that lesson. And then we'll come back looking ahead. Let me go back up. I think we come back together. The next one is on week 13. So this is week 11. So week 13, we will touch base. It'll be actually during your off week when you don't have an assignment due, the week of 11th through the 7th. So we'll touch base that Wednesday, the week of 11th through the 7th. Go over some things, excuse me, for the video. Some things we'll be looking for. And have a time for questions, clarifications, and all that as you get ready for that 24th date to submit. Okay, so I believe our next date will be on Wednesday, the week of week number 13, November 11th through the 17th. Okay. All right. Any questions before we go? You guys stay safe, watch the weather. I know some of you guys mentioned you were under a weather alert. We are here, so be safe. And hope the rest of your week goes well. I know it's a busy time of the year, okay? All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
All right, thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a good one.